Hi, everyone. I'm Teri.
And I'm Ella. Welcome to the Chasing Red Flags podcast. Let's get real. Here, no topic is off limits.
And real beats perfect every time.
Welcome to the conversation.
Welcome to where you belong.
You're part of the family now, so let's get real together.
Hi, honey.
Hi, Mama. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I miss you. You look so pretty.
Thank you. I miss you too. How was your day?
It was good. I've just been stressed with my schoolwork, but I'm doing okay.
What happened to your finger?
You mean that?
Yes. Is it bandaged?
Yeah. Well, I was going to tell you, but I guess I'll tell everyone listening. I just was cutting a bagel this morning and I sliced my finger open and it wouldn't stop bleeding. So I just went to urgent care and they wrapped it up and put some glue on it.
Do I get to say I told you so for how many times I've told you not to cut a knife to your ear?
Yes. Well, Dad just told me he's going to get me a bagel cutter and send it.
That's not the solution. The solution is knowing how to cut the bagel with the knife.
Fine. All right. Well, whatever. I will say I'm very excited for this episode. I know you know how excited I am. I have been thinking of questions and asking my friends for questions for our guest this week for the past 2 weeks.
I'm so excited. There's a lot to cover, so I feel like we might have to have an episode 2 if she goes on. If we all go on and on about all the answers, but
we will.
I am very, very excited about our guest. This is going to be another episode that's really good for college kids, high school kids even, and also it's packed with information that parents and everyone just needs to know.
Yes. Well, I know that we learned about our guest at first because I got it when I was in college freshman year. Some of your friends gave me her book as a gift. And let me just say, it is full of the most helpful information for when you're living on your own or you're going to college for the first time. And honestly, I feel like there was not one thing that it didn't cover.
No. One of my really close friends, as a gift for you senior year, gave you the book. I will talk about it in a minute. And a first aid kit,
notes.
Which you thought was weird at first, but it had you have used almost everything.
I still have it here. Yeah. It's my junior year and I still have the same first aid kit.
I have refilled a lot of the stuff in it though.
Yes.
And as a parent, it made me more comfortable that you had the book because sometimes you look up Mr. Google or Dr. Google and it basically tells you you're dying.
Yes. I mean, that's, I have a pain in my chest. You're dying.
Yes. So very good to have.
Before we begin and we introduce our amazing guest, we want to say thank you all so much for being here. We appreciate your support more than you know. Whether you're tuning in for the first time or you are a day one listener, please subscribe to the Chasing Red Flags podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to yours. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch all of the episodes. All right, Mom, back to you.
Okay. Today we're joined by Dr. Jill Grimes, award-winning author of the book, The Ultimate College Student Health Handbook, your guide from everything from hangovers to homesickness.
Look at that. Look at all those notes. Let me just say for a second.
A lot of notes. She's known as the TikTok college doc, where she breaks down medical issues in ways that we can all actually understand them. She's here to bring an approachable knowledge on everything from alcohol to drugs to STDs to test anxiety to ADHD and more. Get ready to press share on this episode to everyone you know. And please welcome Dr. Jill to the show.
We're so happy to have you here.
So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
We love that you're candid and direct, just like we are. And we hope that you give us some unfiltered, great advice. Are you ready to dive in?
Absolutely. I am so ready.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Well, I will say in the spirit of cutting to the chase, because as now you know, I am in college. Let's start with kind of the alcohol and getting real about binge drinking.
Yep.
Because I know that surveys say 49% of college students drink and 29%, I think, binge drink. But my experience is probably or higher, yes. But in my experience, it's probably more than that. So I was wondering, what's the difference between being blackout and passed out?
Yes. Okay. So this is a super critical difference because people talk about, oh yeah, let's get blackout, whatever. So passed out means unconscious. And how do you know if someone's unconscious? You cannot wake them up. So I'm talking, grab them by the shoulders. Ella, wake up. Ella, talk to me. And if they cannot wake up and be coherent, I mean, actually have a conversation with you, they're unconscious. They need help. Okay. So that's passed out. Blackout means that you have a memory gap the next day. And that comes from basically doing shots. It's when your blood alcohol levels shoot up too high, too fast, and it actually flips off your hippocampus, which takes short-term memories and makes them long-term memories. And when you can't do that the next day, even if at the moment that you were there, you seemed coherent and with it, the next day, you're not going to have long-term memories of that.
Okay. So that makes a lot of sense. And I feel like people have trouble like understanding the difference between the two. And
Yes, all the time.
I had an incident freshman year where I was kind of coming in and out of consciousness, and I am so grateful for my friends who called for help and called 911. But you do talk about like the 5 signs that you have when you feel like you need to call for help. Can you just like tell everyone what they are?
Yes. And I don't even know that it's 5. It might be 6.
It might be more, yes.
But whatever. But it's really easy. Basically, if somebody's unconscious, so passed out, meaning you cannot wake them up, boom, 100%. Number 2, if they can't stop throwing up. So not like throwing up once or twice, but they just
like
keep
constant.
heaving, even if it's that dry heaving after. If they cannot stop that, they need help. If they're throwing up at all, even gagging and throwing up like once, but they're kind of, falling asleep / going unconscious, that is super dangerous.
Okay.
If they have a seizure, and then obviously if they're white, cold, clammy, if they're having trouble breathing, I don't think anyone's going to miss that.
Yes.
But sometimes they might, because if you just think, oh, they're just, we're going to let them sleep it off.
Right.
No, please don't let them sleep it off. And remember that blood alcohol levels keep rising for at least 45 minutes after the last drink. So somebody who is sleepy and drunk can become unconscious and drunk 45 minutes later.
Oh, I think that's very helpful.
Yes. Well, I was going to say, is there a way like to tell if somebody like becomes blackout and then gets to like an unconscious sign? I don't know, like that kind of area.
The only way to know is to try and wake them up. And if you can't wake them up, they're unconscious.
Then you know.
And but you, and it's not like you're 100% safe if you wake them up at 46 minutes after their last drink, or even 1 hour, because there's so many different variables. But if it's a couple hours after their last drink and they have not, you could still wake them up. You could have some degree of confidence that it's much less chance that they are going to go unconscious.
Okay. I think a lot of college kids, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, Ella, feel that if someone's throwing up, they're not unconscious or blackout because they're conscious enough to be sitting at the toilet throwing up in some way. Is that's a misconception?
Well, while they're throwing up, they are, if they're sitting up at a toilet and they're throwing up, they are conscious.
Right.
But someone can absolutely be unconscious lying down and then start heaving.
Yes.
And one of the things I like to talk about is understanding like what the problem is with throwing up when you're drunk. The problem is that as your blood alcohol levels rise, it suppresses your reflexes, including your gag reflex. And you know how if you take a sip of water, Fenny, or you're eating something and it goes down the wrong pipe, right? And how you have that unbelievably forceful cough, like it's embarrassing, like you have to get up and leave the room because you cough so hard. That's a reflex. That's gone when you're super drunk, right? Oh. So there is nothing to make that forceful cough to get it out of your lungs. Does that make some sense?
Yes, you can choke.
Right.
Okay,
so
that makes a lot of sense.
You can choke on that. And the other thing to know is that it's not just throwing up that's what we think about most often when we think about what's the danger of being drunk and going to sleep or whatever.
Yeah.
But the reality is it also, high blood alcohol levels can, one, directly suppress your drive to breathe. So that is where your breathing gets slower and slower. Yeah. Or 2, it certainly can make you have a seizure, which actually I already mentioned. And then 3, it can cause arrhythmias of your heart. And that can be, a fatal arrhythmia.
Okay. So as a mom that's chiming in here, how does this all affect consent? And I feel like I need to ask because it's confusing. I have a daughter and a son. And if you are blackout drunk, from what I understand, that's you can still seem like you're okay.
Yes. And this is the tricky thing. So blackout drunk, you can't tell in the moment. That's only a retrospective. The next morning, you have a memory gap. And I just want to put this out there. If somebody tells you that they don't remember, please believe them. please believe them, because there's a lot of, oh, she's just, I mean, I hate to be sexist, but
No.
it tends to be more about girls. Oh, she's just saying that because she doesn't want to, admit that she made those choices. If someone says that they have a memory gap, they have a memory gap. And the reality is they probably do. It's very scary for most people to have a memory gap because you don't know. You don't know if you were drunk texting unless you look at your phone and see it the next day.
That's
you don't know what you
terrifying.
were doing. It is
So
terrifying.
you're telling me that someone could have sex with someone else or text someone else a conversation and be blackout drunk
and not remember any of it,
because it's not really, even though they call it blackout drunk, again, it's a retrospective thing. It's just the next day you don't remember. And because blood alcohol levels are rising so quickly, that person that you're with, whether you're a guy or a girl, whether you're with a guy or a girl, whoever you're with, if especially if everyone is doing shots, which is the most common scenario when there ends up being a memory gap, they may not be slurring their speech, they may not be staggering, they may not look like super drunk, and so you don't think that they're going to be blackout drunk. You don't think they're going to have that memory gap the next day. But the reality is, if anyone's been drinking, they can't give consent. If we're talking about straight up court of law, if you talk to any lawyers that deal with especially college age sexual assault, I mean, you just there really is no consent if you're drinking, and but even worse, you may not know. You might have been giving enthusiastic, ongoing, verbalized consent in the moment
and not remember the next day.
Morning, have no memory of it, and so it creates a he said, she said, she said, she said, all the different genders.
That is incredibly complicated and scary.
Yes.
So for the sake of this conversation, which is, how can someone be smart when they're being dumb? Because that's what it is.
Right. Well, sure.
It's a hard question.
It is a hard question, but honestly, this is not a popular answer. But what my general mantra is, if you choose to drink, don't do shots. And you know what? You can be a lot of fun with no alcohol. You can be a lot of fun without doing shots. And it's just easy to say, oh, I just don't do shots.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And if you're sticking with basically beer, wine, seltzers, just the sheer volume of those drinks tends to keep you from drinking super fast.
Right.
And so you're not getting that super sudden rise in your blood alcohol level where you don't get the warning signs, so you know when to stop.
Right. Shots are dangerous.
Shots are dangerous. And also remember that the ADHD meds.
Anxiety medication.
That's one of my questions. So I will ask it now. I read it in your book, and actually it was unbelievable to me. So when you're on ADHD medication, and you can explain this, but from what I understand from your book, basically you don't feel the effects of alcohol right now. Is that true?
Right. It is 100% true.
Explain this to our listeners.
So
mind-blowing.
Right. Well, I mean, and honestly, this information is misused by many college students, particularly, again, not to pick on one group, but the one that, in my experience, or I've seen it the most, is like if for pledges for a frat. Can't speak clearly, because they want to be able to hold their alcohol and they're nervous about it, and they know that if their ADHD medicine is still on board, they don't feel it, so they appear more able to hold their liquor. But the scary thing, this is what is so scary to me, is that all it's doing is preventing you from having the warning signs of alcohol toxicity.
Right.
It's not stopping anything that's going on in your brain, with your body, with your decreased gag reflex, with your liver getting irritated, with all of those things are still going on. You just don't feel it until it kind of hits you all at once.
Right. So it's incredibly dangerous to be on ADHD medicine and drinking, especially doing shots.
Yes.
Okay.
Especially.
Okay.
Yes. Well, just speaking of shots, I know your book mentions there are some helpful drink orders that at least I didn't know before. But I feel
shots.
like everyone, the angel shot over ice and angel shot with lime, I think it was.
This is important.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just remember angel shot. Okay. Just like your little angel who's watching over you, who's going to save you, and go up and
I love that.
And order an angel shot.
And that means either call an Uber.
They know you need help. They need to distract the person you're with. They need to have they need to just call an Uber. And, technically, like the angel shot over ice is call me an Uber or whatever. And then with lime, it means I need police.
Okay, so say somebody is trying their best to be drinking responsibly, but they still don't feel amazing the next day and they still have like these hangover symptoms. Like, what are these symptoms of a hangover, and like, how do you get rid of it?
Right. Okay. Well, everyone associates hangovers with headache. So we know headache, and that could be quite severe. But also there's a lot of brain fog, and something that particularly college students underestimate is how are they going to be able to study the next day or function in their classes and process and learn new material. So that brain fog is part of this whole inflammatory response of a hangover. So that's really important. So basically, though, it's you can feel shaky or tremulous, headache, nausea, clearly vomiting, brain fog, and body aches, almost like having the flu. You can feel just super achy. And the main answer is hydration, ideally with an electrolyte rehydration solution like Pedialyte. If you don't have that, a sports drink would be the next. Gatorade, Powerade, any of those would be the next best. But you want to rehydrate.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, when I rehydrate, I've had like this experience has happened to me once, but like I've tried to rehydrate the next morning and I just end up throwing up all of the water.
Right. So you'll do better. The three tips are electrolyte solution rather than water.
Okay.
Sip on it slowly. It should take you like 30 minutes to go through a glass.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I didn't know that because I'm like chugging in the morning.
Oh, no. It's going to come right back up. If you put a big old volume in there, it's just going to go whoop, and right back up as it did.
Slow and steady.
So slow and steady, room temperature, and do not use a straw. Because if you use a straw, you're introducing more air into your stomach. That expands it, makes you more likely to puke.
Oh, well, Ella drinks everything with a straw.
I only use my Stanley.
Yes, which is why take off the top.
Okay, you also have some great tips, and this has actually happened to me as an adult, and I don't drink red wine anymore because of this.
Oh.
I've had a bad experience, but when you get the spins, what do you do to stop the world from spinning?
If you want to sit upright in your bed, if you can.
We're practicing.
We're all sitting upright. Put your feet flat on the ground, ideally barefoot. Again, it's a sensory input.
Oh, barefoot.
And then a hand. Okay. And then a hand on the wall. So it's just sensory input.
Okay.
So look at all three of us.
We're literally all doing it.
Like that's the moment. Freeze frame that.
But that's actually really important. Okay, so I would never have thought of that. Or barefoot. Okay.
No, because I think I will say I was there for this, but like you usually are like, oh, let me just lay down so I can
Everyone
just
wants
like
to lay
fly.
down.
You want to close.
So it stops spinning.
And don't close your eyes. So that's the other thing. So you got the proprioception, and then you want to find something across the room, and just stare at it with your eyes held open for 20 seconds.
Okay.
Ish.
Super helpful.
Count to 20 or 30. But do that every few minutes.
Okay.
I mean, if you have to close your eyes after that, close them. But again, just think about you want input, and you could do a weighted blanket on your lap.
Okay.
Again, it's all about
sit up,
just that difference.
Arm out.
It's the sensory.
Okay.
And if you can't sit up, lying down, try and just drape one leg over the bed and try and get that foot all the way to the floor.
Okay.
And that will help.
I will say something that did stand out to me is like how important it is to know how much alcohol is in a specific container. For example, being a college student, everyone like makes Borgs.
Yes.
So like how many shots are actually in a Borg?
Yes. Okay. So Borg for the uninitiated.
Yep.
Borg, and actually it's really funny how many college students have Borgs and don't know that it stands for blackout rage gallon.
Is that what it's called? Blackout rage gallon.
Blackout.
Of course, you didn't
gallon.
know that.
I mean, it's a Borg.
It's a Borg.
It's a Borg.
Everyone's just making a Borg.
That's actually a terrifying name. Actually, now that
I know.
Well, I know, and I have to say, I don't want anything that's going to encourage blackout drinking. Obviously, I hope I've made that crystal clear.
Yes.
That's not cool. But that being said, there are things I really like about Borgs.
Okay.
And one of the things I like is that for college students who, I mean, look, no judgment here. Not everybody has the confidence to walk in a room and say, I'm not drinking.
Right.
Yeah.
And, they feel like they're being a total nerd or, whatever. It's hard.
Yeah.
And so I like that you control. First of all, Sober You makes the decision how much alcohol you're putting in. You put in what you put in.
Right.
Put in 4 shots of,
and then all liquid with it.
Choice.
Yeah.
Then you have
Nobody would ever
and
know.
And you're drinking this over 4 hours.
Right.
What's upsetting to me is that the thing that when it very first started becoming popular, was that 2 years ago now?
Yeah.
The recipe was, a fifth of vodka.
How much? How many
God. The whole
shots
thing?
is in a fifth of vodka?
That's 17.
17 shots.
I mean, that could kill you right there. So, and I'm, even if you're drinking that over 17 hours, you can sort of metabolize 1 drink per hour, but no one's going to actually, they're not drank over 17 hours. They're drank over, 4 or 5. But
I was going to say it'll be done in a 4 or 5 hour period.
I have to go back to this for a second. So a fifth of vodka, which is a smaller bottle of vodka in the sense of not the big jug, is 17 shots.
I mean, I hope I'm not misspeaking, but I think so. Yes.
So around that, that's like a ballpark.
So
when
the bottom line is, it's way more. A shot is an ounce.
And when they do events at fraternities and sororities, sometimes they're drinking out of a fifth of vodka. That's just, I think that people need to hear that that's 17 shots.
Yes.
Well, and I think that people used to make fun of me, and I will tell this story quickly, that when Ella was younger, and we did do this, Ella, when she was starting to drink a little bit and get to know, I put out a shot and I filled up a cup.
Oh, yeah.
And we showed her so they could understand you have to measure things. You can't just be pouring out of a vodka bottle into a red cup and make a mixie because you really don't know what's in it. So, people might be judgy that I did that, but that's what they're drinking. They're just pouring. And you can't pour 5 or 6 shots into a red cup.
Yep.
I cannot tell you how many times I have had that conversation. When I went to college, I had no perspective. The very first drink I had was trash can punch.
Oh God. Trash can punch. They just pour it in.
Handed to me in a red Solo cup.
Exactly.
Where I could smell it when it got, here, like a foot from my face.
Yep.
But I didn't have a frame of reference that meant it was a ton of alcohol. So, I got very sick.
And now
I give you the credit, Mom, for doing that and preparing us. And
I really did. I worked very hard.
I was on FaceTime with Ryan.
I just feel like the more educated, you were? The more educated the kids are, the better they are about making decisions going forward. And I think I always tell them, you also never drink punch because you don't know this day and age if there's drugs in it. And that's a whole nother conversation.
My gosh.
No, that's another conversation.
That's another conversation.
Well, okay. So I was going to say, I'm going to bring it up on another hot topic as much as we were talking about alcohol, especially for college students now.
Sure.
Especially that it's legal in so many states, weed. Mm-hmm. Can you just talk about kind of like the real risk with weed in general?
Yes, so I can. I will tell you, I'll be very upfront. I am biased against weed because I see the negative outcomes. Okay. So people ask me all the time, what's worse, alcohol or weed? Okay, well, both of them to excess are terrible, right? I mean, we know that. And people use both to help them sleep. Both of them make you calm and sleepy initially, except for weed when it doesn't, because, 1 out of 10 times you use the exact same thing, and this time you're hyper and having a horrible hallucinations and a bad trip. That's one of my. There's a lot of different issues with weed. One is which it's not legal everywhere. So like I'm in Texas, it is not legal here. So if you don't grow it, you don't know what's in it. There could be other things in it, and it could be laced with acid. It can have other bad things that you don't want to be inhaling or ingesting in it, and so that's scary by itself. There is a link between chronic heavy cannabis use, particularly in young males, and schizophrenia. And the bottom line is this: if you have in your family history, if anyone has schizophrenia or a anything that has a psychotic component to it, so bipolar or depression with psychotic features, that means you may be predisposed a bit to that. And you don't want to flip that switch and turn that on earlier in your brain than it's going to naturally turn on. People who use it, that they think that they're using it to calm their anxiety, it starts off that they're maybe having a gummy to sleep. And then they're having it before they go to a party to calm their nerves for social anxiety. And then and especially if they're vaping, so they get the effects faster, it's becomes addictive. And also you're not having that normal behavioral education that you should be through the maturation process. So it's particularly more dangerous for brains under the age of 25. Your brain does not just like on your 25th birthday, it doesn't say, that's it, I'm done, I'm formed.
I was going to say that. I was going to say that you say the brain is under construction until 25. Yes. So this college age, it's developing.
It's under rapid construction. Let's say it's under rapid construction because my brain's still under construction.
Right.
And I'm way past 25. but the period of rapid growth does make it's more addictive for
so that's my question. I'm going to straight out ask you.
Sorry. Yeah. Is it addictive?
Is weed addictive? Because
yes.
Ella knows there's tons of kids and adults. So I will say
everyone smokes weed these days.
And there's
everyone.
And a lot of people are doing it to self-medicate. So is it addictive?
Yep. Yes, it is. But it's not for everybody.
Okay.
So like you and I, at this point in our life experience, know a lot of people that were addicted to nicotine, right?
Yes.
Smoking.
Everyone smoked cigarettes back in the day.
And everybody knows that one person that smoked 3 packs a day and one day said, oh yeah, my wife had a baby, I'm putting it down, I'm never smoking again.
Right.
Yeah. And bully for them. That's amazing.
Right.
But that's super rare because most
that's
people.
Not usual.
No, it's not. It's usually more addictive. So 1 in 6 teens will get physically addicted to THC products, to cannabis.
1 in 6.
1 in 6.
That's a big number.
And 1 in 11 adults. So if you're trying it for the first time, you're over the age of 18-ish. Again, these are, not hard and fast numbers, but the younger you are, more chance 1 in 6, 1 in 11 for adults. So you're right. 10 out of 11 of your friends who are using weed are not going to get addicted. And that's great. And it may be that we find out in another 10, 20 years that having a THC gummy or whatever, any kind of smoking is bad for your lungs. I just can't, I'm never going to endorse that. I'm just not.
Okay. I was going to ask if there is a difference between like taking edibles versus actually smoking.
Yeah. So the main thing is you end up getting higher. Most people end up getting much higher doses from edibles, partly because there is this delayed onset. So it takes up to an hour, sometimes an hour and a half for it to fully kick in. Nobody waits an hour to have a second one. They wait 15 minutes. They think it's like a drink or vaping, that they should have that buzz. And if you're not feeling anything, I'll just have another bite of this, candy bar or brownie or gummies. Yeah. And then you get way too much. So when you get the cannabis toxicity, one of the consistent things is very scary hallucinations. And it's like, FBI hunting you down and chasing you. And when you see those cars going like a zillion miles, zipping in and out of traffic, I mean, okay,
it's terrible.
I'm making up the statistic, but I'm just going to say 9 times out of 10, that's somebody with weed, because that is what the police are seeing in states where it has been legalized. They're having a lot more traffic stops that are people going way too fast in a slow zone.
So can we talk about the hard stuff for a quick second? Tell me about fentanyl, because it seems to be killing people everywhere.
Yep. Okay. So the 1 pill can kill is real.
Okay. 1 pill can kill.
Is it really?
It is very real.
Because I've heard that like a million times, like especially around college campuses and all of that.
Right. It's because it's true. I don't know what to tell you. Fentanyl, it is such teeny tiny doses that are lethal. And everyone's like, well, yeah, but everyone's so 80% of the street drugs sold in the United States, or at least those that are confiscated, and they extrapolate these numbers, have fentanyl in them.
Wow.
They don't all have lethal doses, and 80% of illegal street drugs. It is very scary. Yeah. And the thing is, they literally, the cartels and stuff that are making the drugs, they have imprinting machines that literally like if you think you're taking a Xanax,
Right.
It looks like Xanax. It says Xanax on it. Like
No,
if you look
and
up
it's
a
not.
picture on Pill Finder, it looks like that. And FDA agents can't tell by looking either. It's not. There's nothing visual that's going to tell you.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
only if you put it
Don't
in a
take
lab
pills.
that you know.
Don't take pills that don't come from a doctor.
Don't take pills.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so
your doctor prescribed for you.
Right.
Well, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. That's very
That's the-
different than like voluntarily deciding to take something that somebody hands you.
So as a mom,
Right.
I have to mention this again, but so now that we're talking about the hard stuff, there's all sorts of we hope it never comes to this, but if something goes horribly wrong, can you tell us about Narcan? Because I didn't,
Yes.
I'm being honest, I didn't know about Narcan until Ella's first aid kit, right? And everyone's
Okay.
like, put Narcan in it, or there was Narcan
Yes.
in it. So can you tell us
Okay.
about Narcan?
So what is Narcan? Narcan, at least temporarily, reverses the effects of fentanyl. What fentanyl does is it stops you from breathing. Just boom.
Okay.
Right? That's the problem. So alcohol, we've got heart, brain, all those things. Fentanyl, much more quickly stops your drive to breathe.
Wow.
So you just
Oy.
don't breathe. So
Okay.
you die. That's bad. But what Narcan does is it will wake that respiratory drive center in your brain back up and you'll start breathing again. But it can wear off. So sometimes you need a second dose. Anytime you, so
So
Narcan,
they sell 2 doses together. I do notice
Yes.
that. Okay.
there's 2 doses together. It's about $40. Most like CVS, Walgreens, pretty consistently about $40.
And you don't need a prescription.
You do not need a prescription,
You
but
can just grab. You can get.
but if you're just kind of embarrassed about it and you don't like, oh, I'm not going to get that. People are going to like notice that I'm getting that for my kid, and they're going to think Ella's out there popping pills. You
Right.
know? No. It's not going to be out on the counters. It's going to
Okay.
be behind the counter. So you do have to ask for it.
Okay.
And honestly, that's just because it works really well and it's expensive, and so people are shoplifting it. And anyone whose kid has it could potentially help somebody else. But it doesn't do any good if it's not where you need it. The main thing that I have a lot of college students that just say when they go to their parties, a lot of people are popping pills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're like, I just want to know how to use it if somebody collapses on the couch in front of me. And the thing is, and you're not going to do any harm if you administer it and the person's actually passing out from alcohol.
Okay. So it can't hurt you to use it.
It's
if you
not
think
going to do
there's a
any
risk.
harm.
Yeah.
It's not going to do any harm.
Okay.
It can only help, and you
Help.
might save a life. And
Okay.
all it is, it's just like a steroid nose spray, like Nasacort or Flonase.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Don't prime it. You don't. There's only 1 dose in there, so you don't
Just
like
boom.
test it into the air. You
Got
just
it.
take it, put it in
Go.
the nose, squirt. That's it. And then I'm sorry. Then you call 911.
How do you parent?
Yeah.
How do you
Then
parent
call
in these
911.
days?
Then you call 911 every time, even and especially if they wake up, you still call 911.
Okay.
Okay.
So now let's switch over to a subject that's obviously very close to our hearts, mental health. And I wrote this down. So the statistics are alarming. The National College Health Assessment said 74% of students reported moderate to severe psychological distress. 50% report loneliness, makes me cry. 20% depression. 45% of those feel it's difficult to function. And 65% have overwhelming anxiety. These are staggering statistics, Dr. Jill.
They are.
What do you do? What can we do differently?
Well, I think honestly, Ella, kudos to your generation. And I'm like using you globally because you guys are out there talking about it.
Yeah.
And
Trying to. A lot of people don't. We're trying to get
We're
it
definitely
to be
disrupting
more
things a little bit.
normalized. Yes.
Right. But more and more people are talking about it. And I can't tell you, even just 5 years ago, when I wrote the first edition of this book, I had so many people reach out to me that I didn't know or whatever, that just messaged me, and they're like, I thought I was the only one, even with test anxiety. People were not talking about anxiety.
That's Ella.
Right?
So I was like, there is especially like just on college campuses, there's obviously no shortage of anxiety in all different aspects. But I says, like 20% of students suffer from test anxiety. My first econ exam ever, and I had a panic attack. I was dripping.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at the panic attack. I'm just like,
no, but it's, exactly.
Yes,
but
like I'm just like picturing you sitting there.
I'm sitting there. It is literally, I'm arm to arm with like 5 people down the rows from me, and I start like profusely sweating. I was wearing like a sweatshirt and shorts, and I had to take off I had to put my hair up. These kids are looking at me. They're turning their pages, and like I just like, so
and you're frozen.
After that, I am now on anxiety medication, and it's amazing. But for somebody who might not necessarily be familiar, or like might be thinking of a friend who could use some help with that stuff, what are like signs and solutions for test anxiety, and like obviously just anxiety in general?
Well, and Ella was given metoprolol. I think that's what it's called.
Metoprolol.
Yes.
Metoprolol. I can't pronounce it. For test anxiety.
Yes, now that's helped a lot.
Oh, yes, I can't tell you. And I prescribe this a lot because and it's one of those medicines where we call it a backpack medicine, right?
Oh.
So this is why. Because people come in, right? And they describe this like, oh my gosh, I just panicked, sweating, heart racing, I feeling like tunnel vision, all the things, like you're about to pass out, and then your brain goes blank.
Yes.
Right. And then what happens?
The second I get out of the test, I know everything.
Well, of course you were prepared. This is not test anxiety from not being prepared. This is different. And the problem is the next time you walk into that same room, and maybe it's only a quiz, but you're going to have the same thing if you don't stop those symptoms. So the key is to trick the brain by slowing the heart rate down. So metoprolol or propranolol is
that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing.
Same thing.
Brand name. But this is actually a blood pressure medicine, believe it or not, that we don't use in blood pressure doses. We use in baby doses. That we use it for the side effect of slowing the heart rate. And this is what we give for fear of public speaking, which includes answering questions in class, or for test anxiety. And what happens is when you can slow the heart rate down by whatever means, your brain is like, well, I guess if my heart's not racing, I must not be that anxious. And it just calms it down. So the other things that you can do are I always get an eye roll with this one. But deep breathing exercises.
Right.
But honestly,
my therapist tells me this every week.
Okay,
we talk about it all the time.
But I this is how I explain it. I'm like, okay, I know you're going to eye roll at this, but deep breathing exercises. Now stop. Let me tell you why. It's not because it's like woo-woo, get in your head, chill out, which actually is all good. But it's because when you force yourself to breathe slowly, there is a physiologic feedback that slows your heart rate down. So it is a real thing. But and then the propranolol, this blood pressure medicine that we use at tiny doses where it's not affecting your blood pressure, but it's slowing your heart rate. It is non-addictive.
That's
and
what
the
I was
reason it's
gonna
called
ask you. Okay.
Right, and the reason it's called a backpack medicine is what I have found is I'll prescribe 10 pills of this. Right.
Yep.
And I'll say, try this before a quiz. Don't wait for your midterm, which of course it's midterm week. But in general, don't wait for your midterm or your final. Do it for something small. Make sure you don't have any side effects. The only real side effect typically is a headache, to be honest. If you're well hydrated, most people do pretty well with it. Okay. And again, we use really small doses. So I have them try it, and then have them use it for an actual test. And it just breaks the cycle. And then they know that they just have it in their backpack, that they don't take it beforehand, but they have it with them. If they do start freaking out during a test in the future, that it's there, but they usually don't need it.
Okay.
So it's
for our listeners, I think that's an important thing.
Yes.
It's not addictive.
Yeah, it's not addictive.
It's a really good option.
And it doesn't
It has been for me.
Major interactions.
Right.
Yes.
It's been great for Ella.
Especially this year. I've had some quizzes, and I took like not two, but like one before a quiz and another one before a quiz. And I just had my first midterm exam, and I also did it, and I felt really good. I texted you after, Mom, and I was like, okay, wasn't as bad as I thought.
I'm telling you, freshman chemistry lab is a lab more than the class. It's one that a lot of people get terrified about. That one, accounting for some reason, whatever the intro,
accounting,
finance,
econ, all of that.
Sure, physics. I mean, all of these things where if you get jumbled, it just derails you. So this is a great option. And it doesn't fix everybody. It doesn't fix everything. I think cognitive behavioral therapy is the best solution, but not everybody.
You're taking the words out of my mouth.
Ella went to CBT therapy freshman year.
So I went to CBT
that's
therapy.
CBT, not D. Just
T.
Clarifying for our listeners.
T as in Teri.
Oh, I like that.
But yes, I will say I had like a really, really positive experience with CBT therapy. So can you just kind of like explain what that is to everybody and like all
so
that?
this is not lie on the couch, talk about your mother.
No.
This is very, people are like, oh, I don't have time for this, whatever. It is short term, usually just a few sessions, less than 6, sometimes 2, sometimes 1. But it is talk therapy that helps, it's goal directed, and it helps you recognize when you're having distorted thinking. And so instead of, your boyfriend breaks up with you and you're like, that's it, I'll be single the rest of my life, never have children, that's it, my life's over, right? That's catastrophic thinking. Same thing with the test. I missed this question. I'm gonna flunk this test. I'm gonna flunk the class. I'm gonna lose my scholarship. I can't go to med school or whatever. So it helps you recognize when you start doing that piling on distorted thinking with negative outcomes. And it can be tremendously helpful. And I wish everybody could do it, but not everybody has access. And so these other tools are just extra tools.
Right.
What about like tips for lack of sleep? Just because I've definitely had that experience, especially being in college and being homesick and like all of that.
A tired brain cannot learn and process new information or retrieve it on a test like a fresh brain.
That's why I don't study the night before an exam until 4 a.m. because I'm not going to retain any information. I already know that. I'm not going to do anything more.
Yeah. So you have to figure out those limits.
Okay.
But so for sleep, there's all kinds of things that help. So basically just the ideal sleep condition is a cool, dark, like temperature 70-degree, dark, pitch black room that is quiet. That's the ideal. So how are you going to get that in a place where you're living with a ton of other students? Yep. All you can control is yourself. So you can't do blackout blinds most likely, but you can do an eye sleep mask. So get a sleep mask. Okay. By the way, those need to be washed. Just throw them in the laundry once a week. have 2 of them. Otherwise,
I love my sleep mask. I have my fluffy white one.
Yeah. Sometimes it'll cause acne if you're not washing it regularly. So you have beautiful skin, but for everyone else, there is that. So do a sleep mask.
Okay.
I like different kinds of, you don't want to ever sleep with earbuds in your ears, but they make all kinds of,
I fall asleep
it looks
with
sort of like a sweatband.
Like
oh my gosh.
Is that bad?
That's crazy.
Never do that. No, it's just like, I'm just like.
How uncomfortable is that?
I watch TV,
so
I fall asleep because my husband doesn't like the noise. So my wireless headphones go to the TV and I fall dead asleep like this every night.
So do you sleep on your back?
I sleep on my back.
No. Okay. You start on your back and then you'll wake up like 2 a.m., take off your headphones and then go to bed.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I would say consider getting some, on Amazon. I don't know the brand name, but I have several different ones of these, but it looks like a sweatband, but it goes, some of them go over your eyes and your ears, and then they have Bluetooth, but it's just a little thin layer. And I mean, it's not going to be the primo quality of Bose good headphones, but it's good enough for sleep stories or meditations or music or whatever helps put you to sleep. So also weighted blanket and exercise daily, but not right before bed.
I was going to say, I don't have a weighted blanket, but I have my weighted stuffed animal. And I literally sleep with it like every single night like this. And it just it just makes me feel less anxious and just better.
Yes. They're fabulous. Highly recommend them.
That's crazy. Yeah. She loves that. That's
I know.
So funny.
I love it.
We got to get you on at home, Ella.
Okay. Well, I bring it back and forth, so it's fine.
Okay. We're going to have you on for part 2 for this part, but I do have to ask a couple quick questions because I think these are important. Sure. If we can, we can do a deeper dive into sex ed another time. But when we're talking about STDs, there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of misinformation. So are there symptoms for gonorrhea and chlamydia?
The biggest take home I want everyone to hear is that symptoms are often very transient, and people think, oh my gosh, I've got a little burning or discomfort, but then it goes away after 2 days. They're like, oh, good, I didn't have anything.
Right.
No, please get tested, because a ton of STDs are asymptomatic, meaning you do not have symptoms. The only way to know is to get tested, and it's just not that big of a deal. We can treat gonorrhea and chlamydia. Gonorrhea actually is getting very antibiotic resistant, so it's a little bit bigger a deal. But the point is, you can pee in a cup. You don't have to have big exams beyond that. And it's so important to get tested, particularly for women, because if you were to develop a chronic infection and develop scarring, there is a significant chance of infertility with that, and it's preventable.
So you can get an infection without even knowing or having symptoms.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, what if it goes untreated because you just have no idea?
Right. Well, that's the problem. That's the problem. You don't want to develop scarring. And again, I don't want to fearmonger, but I'm just saying we could prevent, tens of thousands of cases of infertility if just everybody who is sexually active even was screened once a year.
Yeah.
But in general, if you've had new partners, particularly if you're not using barrier protection like condoms, it's really important to get tested.
Right. Or I read in your book, so I'm just going to say, if you are with a boyfriend for a long time, you break up and then you're with other people and you get back together and you're not using condoms.
That's always when it happens. That's always when it happens. People are lonely and they get back together with the ex and boom, somebody or both of them has been with other partners, not shocking. But you get back together and you're so used to not using barriers when you're together that you don't.
Yes.
And then there's all kinds of emotional overlay with that, because now you've passed on a disease as well. And while we're talking about that, let me just say, oral sex, this is why flavored condoms were invented. You need a barrier between a mouth. Sorry, but
I've never even heard of flavored condoms.
Mom, I know it too. I can't believe. Okay.
I have not heard of flavored condoms. Explain this to me.
They exist.
That's hilarious. They do
have
exist,
flavors,
though.
Okay. And you can't taste them with anything other than, your mouth.
Because you can get diseases in your mouth?
Yeah. So it's another barrier protection.
Most commonly, oral herpes, mouth goes on genitals. Now genitals have herpes.
Got it.
And that's painful. And it's not the end of the world. It's very common, but you certainly want to avoid it if you can.
Yeah, it's preventable.
It's preventable.
Okay.
And so, yes, condoms are also for oral sex.
That's why I asked, right? You got to know. All right, 100%. We could talk to you forever, but we want to squeeze in a bunch of questions that the college students asked Ella.
I know.
So can we do a game of rapid fire with you?
Go.
I know. They're like rapid fire, one word, like really quick. Okay. We'll just we'll switch off asking questions, but like a bunch of college students, my friends, or like from our online community, from social media, they all just like texted some things in.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, so
Let's
quickest
go.
answers.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay. How much water should you be drinking a day? And is there too much water?
There is too much, but it's really hard to get too much. Have one or two, have a Stanley a day.
If I'm getting cold symptoms at college or wherever, do I wait it out or do I take medicine right away? What do I do?
Okay, so for cold symptoms, so we're talking sore throat, runny nose, congestion.
Yep.
Treat with over-the-counter stuff. Test for COVID. For goodness sakes, don't pass that on to other people.
Right.
And this is not political. Just, you can test for it. So if you know you have it, don't expose other people. And if you have a fever, stay away from other people. But if you have a persistent fever, the biggest thing is for strep throat, that requires antibiotics, because even if the sore throat goes away, that infection can go and affect your kidneys or heart. So signs of strep throat are big red pussy tonsils, with or without pus, big red tonsils, sore throat, swollen lymph nodes in the front, and a fever, and no cough.
Got it. So if you have just a regular nose, cold, and cough, what do you take?
So
like
you can, sure. Yeah. Cough and cold combinations, treat your symptoms. Main thing is drink fluid. Yeah. I'm going to give too long of an answer. Okay. Yes. Cough and over the counter, cold stuff's fine.
Okay. If you are constipated, what is the best thing to do?
Oh God.
This is what, by the way, 10 people asked us this question online.
I know.
Oh, 100%. Listen, parents think toddler constipation is a thing, and it is. College constipation is a much bigger deal. Okay. You have to have adequate hydration, adequate fiber and movement, meaning physical activity,
Exercise.
to poop.
Okay.
Right. So drink more water, add fiber to your diet. It's fine to use the over-the-counter supplements. You don't want to jump to something like Miralax, using that every day. That is, you're training your gut in the wrong way.
That was my next question. Is Miralax bad to take every day?
Yeah, you don't want to do that long term.
Okay.
The biggest issue for college constipation is fear of pooping in public. Like, not like
Is that a thing?
Public, but public
No,
toilets.
but yes,
public toilets.
being in a public bathroom, that is like, that
because
gives
you don't want
me
anyone
a
to
lot
hear,
of
heaven
anxiety.
forbid that you make a noise when, you know.
Oh, that's a big
Just
thing.
Just put in noise canceling AirPods and you'll have no idea what's going on.
Pooping in public. I didn't know that was an issue.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, public bathrooms. I don't want anyone pooping
Not
in public.
public bathrooms.
Sorry, pooping in public restrooms. I didn't know that was an issue.
Okay.
College
What about?
constipation's big.
I'm bringing this up because I literally just had an incident, and mine's a little worse than what I'm asking. But like, when you get a cut, do you recommend Vaseline or Neosporin or an antibiotic or what?
Okay, parents.
My dad says Neosporin.
All he does is tell us to use Neosporin.
Okay, that's kind of like, the whole Windex thing with the big Greek wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah. This has been possibly the most difficult thing for me to change as a mom, is to switch to Vaseline. But that is what the science shows. But the bottom line is it really, that is not current evidence-based medicine.
Amazing.
Again, I promise you people, this is hard for me too.
Vaseline.
Yes. And get the tube, like the toothpaste tube, rather than and if you're going to use the tub, just that's the one thing that Q-tips are good for, just Q-tips.
So you mentioned Q-tips. That's the next question. Is it bad to use a Q-tip in your ear to clean your earwax?
Yes.
Everybody asks that.
Yes.
It's bad?
Yes.
Well, how do you clean your ears?
Oh my gosh.
If you're a college kid and you want
you're not going to like me anymore then, because I literally use a Q-tip like every day.
So I have to tell you, one of my first videos on TikTok literally was on this subject. It was on flushing, not using bobby pins, heaven forbid, or Q-tips. Or Q-tips. You'd be amazed how many people do it.
That's disgusting.
But yes, it is. Well, it's dangerous is what it is.
Yeah, that's
but instead, anyway, I did this thing on flushing your ears out with a nasal bulb syringe. It had 18 million views.
Nobody
That's how many people
is
talk
people in
about
college
this.
going to do that?
I took
not easily.
It's not a big deal. But anyway, I took it down because I was new on TikTok, and I didn't make a big deal about saying that obviously your eardrum has to be intact. You can't have ear tubes currently in your ears. This is not for babies or elderly. Okay. But if you see a doctor, and if you're a wax builder upper, right? If every time you've gone to the doctor your whole life, when they look in the ear, they're I can't really see your eardrum, you've got wax in there. You're a wax builder upper, and talk with your doctor and see what they say about you flushing out your ears with a nasal bulb syringe at home. It's not a big deal. You only do it a few times, like, every 3 months or so. And again, talk with your doctor about it. I'm not giving individual recommendations, but that you don't want to use Q-tips. You can use a mixture half and half of vinegar and alcohol and put a few drops in after the shower if you feel like you've got retained liquid in there. But really, mostly ears are self-cleaning. And if you need to do something, if your doctor recommends it, you can flush it.
Ella, stop using Q-tips. Mom advice, doctor advice, right here.
Fine, I will stop now.
2 people on you. Okay.
Wait, I gotta ask this question only because this is one that a lot of college students have asked me to ask. How long can I keep leftovers in the refrigerator?
Okay. Yes.
By the way, they keep them forever.
No, when I say like maybe a week, is that too long?
That's the edge. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, if we just need a hard and fast rule, don't use anything. Yeah, I would say pretty much past a week. Leftovers really should be eaten within 2 to 3 days.
Okay.
2 to 3 days, Ella. So when I come to visit you and she has 5-day-old food in there, that's gross. Throw it out. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
How many cups of coffee is too many in a day as I drink my 5th cup?
Oh dear. So
you're gonna have to lecture her on coffee.
That's a whole nother episode, but be honest.
It is. I mean, the truth is, are you having problems from it? Do you have insomnia? Do you have reflux, heartburn?
Yes.
If you have, do you have daily headaches? If you have any of those things, you need to be off of caffeine and using it sporadically.
Mom, you should stop.
And if you stopped tomorrow, you would hate me for a week. So what you do is you start mixing your coffee like a fourth decaf, and then 3 days later you go to a third decaf, and then you just
Mom,
steadily.
it's like withdrawal symptoms.
I shouldn't have
Same
asked.
thing.
I wish I didn't ask. I love my coffee. It makes me happy.
Right. Well, and you can keep your coffee and you can keep your routine. You just need to, if you have problems from it, you're having too much.
Okay.
If you're not having problems from it, which you're now going to be in denial about, but
Total
if you're
denial.
if you're not having problems from it,
Okay.
then,
all right, another college one. Does cranberry juice actually help a UTI, or is that a myth?
if you drink a whole liter of it,
A liter?
it might lower, which would be a lot of calories. I'm just saying, if you did that, it would lower the pH of your urine a touch, and it might, it can have the bacteria be less sticky to the walls of the ureters.
So college girls who are listening, your
But
one
it's
glass
low key a little bit. It's
doesn't
not
work.
helping. 1 or 2 glasses isn't like going to do anything.
Honestly, no.
Okay.
I mean, it's fluid.
It might make me feel better, but it won't actually help me.
It won't cure your urinary tract infection. No.
I had an argument with my son, so I'm going to ask this, even though I know it's on Ella's college list. When do you take Advil versus Tylenol?
Oh my God, don't start.
No, it's a whole thing I have. I want to know the answer from the doctor.
Okay, so this is assuming you have no contraindications to either ibuprofen, which is Advil,
Yes.
or acetaminophen, which is Tylenol. The bottom line, ibuprofen first, Advil first.
See, I just told him that, and he said, no, Advil is only for muscles.
Yeah.
It's not true.
Well, it's not. Tylenol just helps. Tylenol decreases pain, and it can lower fevers, but not as effectively as ibuprofen. And ibuprofen, in addition, decreases inflammation.
Right.
So definitely for muscles, you for sure want ibuprofen, which is Advil. My neighbor, who always asks me this question all the time, I'm just like, always Advil. I mean,
always.
I'm always Advil.
I try not to be brand names. It's really ibuprofen, but there's really not a good word that goes with ibuprofen. So
yes. This is our last question.
Okay.
I mean, we could continue for another 5 hours, but just as somebody I'm going abroad, I'm going to Barcelona. I'm super excited.
I studied abroad in Spain.
Oh,
I can't wait.
Excited.
But there is a 6-hour time change. So
Yes.
6 hours later. So I'm just trying to figure out
Everybody's asking about birth control pills going abroad.
when am I taking my pill? And I mean, I take my anxiety pill at the same time, but should I be doing that in the morning every day when I get there? Or how do I do that when I'm adjusting from the first 2 days without missing a day?
Right. It's best not to have, you don't want to just, let's see, if you're going there, you can take it early, but not late. So if, it'd be fine just to, do you take it at 7 a.m. every morning?
Yeah, I wake up
10 or
She's not up at 7 a.m.
No, I got 9:30 classes 4 days a week. I usually wake up around 10:30 the other day, so around between 9 and 10 in the morning.
So, FYI, you're better off getting up the same time every day and taking a nap on those other days.
I knew you were going to say that.
Sorry, I had to throw that in there. I can't help it.
She has to
help
say it.
I know,
you have
I
to
know,
take the pill at the same time every day.
So-
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
But basically, because you're moving forward an hour, right? I was just make sure I'm thinking about this
6 hours
right.
ahead.
6 hours ahead.
Right. So you just would be 6 hours early the first day you get there. Now, when you come back, you don't.
6 hours later.
You're going to have to transition slowly or do something different on your way back.
Okay.
But going there, you could just take it at
earlier.
the same time.
You see why people are confused? There needs to be a chart.
No, it's confusing. Yes.
Maybe that can go in the next edition, a chart with all the hours of all the different countries and when to take your birth control pill.
I love it.
We love your update.
Yes,
we could talk to you for 1,000 hours. This has been amazing. The fourth update of
I'll come back.
It's the fourth update. Am I right? Of this book?
Third
of your book?
It's the third update of this book.
Okay.
So this is the third update.
I love that you keep updating it. I think that's amazing too. I just wanted to say that I feel like it continues to help, especially with new generations and as we're continuing to evolve. So I think that's awesome.
I mean, we missed one of the big updates that we didn't even talk about was doctor's office appointments for kids when they go into college. We'll get into that in the next time. But everyone should buy this book because it's an incredible resource. So we appreciate
Thank you. I literally, started writing it for my own kids and their friends, and now it's for all of you. I'm like the mom.
We love it.
You're everybody's mom. I think this has been so helpful. I'm probably going to email you 10,000 questions later that we just thought of. Thank you for this amazing conversation. Do you want to tell everyone where they can find you and find your resources?
Sure. So I'm trying to have more of a presence on Instagram. So I'm Jill Grimes MD on Instagram. I am on TikTok. I'm tiktok.collegedoc. And I'm just trying to get the information out there. And my website is my name, jillgrimesmd.com. And this book, like I said, this is my passion project, and I have to do a quick mom brag that our younger daughter, who has a degree in animation and works at Disney, she is the illustrator.
Oh, so that's incredible. I love the mom-daughter duo.
Yes. Wait, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, and she was in college. She was a sophomore in college when I asked her to do these illustrations. So this is literally me texting her going, Nicole, I need this now.
That's incredible. I love
the mom-daughter duo. I love it.
So that's why you guys were extra special to me. I love my older daughter as well. She just wasn't. She's an occupational therapist and gives me great tips about all kinds of things that I share. But
that's incredible.
Well, good.
Thank you so much for being here. It means so much to us that you came. And like I said, we could ask you 20,000 more questions.
I was about to say I have like 50 more questions off the top of my head, but we'll just have to do another episode.
We'll do another one. And I especially love you asking your friends. And that's one of my favorite things to do is ask the doc. So
yes,
love it.
Absolutely. So I'll keep asking, especially once they listen to this, it'll be very helpful.
Perfect.
Thank you again.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
All right, well, that's it for today's episode. If you learned something today, please don't forget to share it with a friend or anybody you know. We thought this was amazing information, and I hope you guys did too.
We'll be back next week with another really exciting guest. This was a great day. Mwah.
I miss you, love you, and in the meantime, keep being real, keep being you, and know that we've got your back.
If you have any thoughts, questions, or just want to say hi, we would love to hear from you. Your support means everything to us. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Chasing Red Flags Official and on Facebook and YouTube at Chasing Red Flags. And if you want to share your story, ask a question, or pick up some Chasing Red Flags merch, go to chasingredflags.com. The Chasing Red Flags podcast is produced by Jay Del Turco. We are new in this space, so if you enjoyed what you're hearing, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or add a comment and like on our YouTube channel.